Hey guys, I'm Kelly Hogan, and I would like to talk to you today about binge eating. And people who ask me what constitutes binge eating have likely never experienced it because if you know, you know. So maybe you're a person who sometimes goes to a buffet and overdoes it, or you'll occasionally eat a few more pieces of bacon that you probably needed, and that's just considered probably an occasional overeater. And that probably happens to all of us at times. But people who have binge eating disorder will typically consume very large quantities of food really rapidly without any control. And usually they're not even hungry. So we're talking between like 1,000 and 3,000 calories that are outside of regular meal times, even. And usually afterwards, we have intense feelings of guilt, shame, regret, usually pain. We're normally either sick afterwards to the point of vomiting or just having to go lay down for long periods of time. And we'll tell ourselves, I am never doing that again. But then we'll lose control and repeat the behavior again. And if that sounds familiar to you, you are not alone. I have been there. It is so not fun. And I'm going to share some things that helped me to gain control. For starters, the particular foods that we consume could be a huge trigger for binge eating. So if you're still eating processed foods, sugar, anything that tastes sweet, flours and grains, a sweet and salty food, a high fat dairy with sugar, or anything that has more than 5 ingredients, you are much more likely to binge eat. So if people can cut out those highly palatable and severely addictive foods, they can at least have a fighting chance at breaking the cycle. That is step one. But meat is high in protein and also high in fat, which means it's actually pretty hard to binge eat it, especially if it's not overly seasoned. It is possible, but the fat and the protein tend to be very self-limiting. And without the purposely addictive additives that are added to most foods and all of the processing, it is much less likely that someone will lose control. However, if a person does find themselves in pain due to binging on even meat, it is sometimes best to limit the more processed meats like bacon and salami and instead focus on whole cuts of meat like steak or even eggs. People are much more likely to binge on salami and cheese than they are on a fatty ribeye, for example. If removing the sugary processed junk food doesn't cure binge eating, here are some other tips that may help. For one, please consider making sure that you eat regularly scheduled meals and that you do not allow yourself to undereat or skip any meals. Binge eating experts say that binge eating started as a survival technique for all of us. If you're a binge eater, it started as a survival technique in times of food scarcity. So for me, it looked like this. When I was in high school, I started doing extreme dieting. It would be prom time, and I would make myself eat this one lean cuisine per day. 400 calories, not nearly enough for my body. So I could do that for a few weeks and I would start to lose weight. And then my body would just like, I had to have food. So I would have a massive binge episode basically to save myself. These episodes started out as protective survival techniques in the face of either extreme dieting or food scarcity. But then we get used to that dopamine hit from eating so much, and it becomes something that we start to do out of habit. So to break that cycle, many of us just need to absolutely stop restricting our caloric intake and make sure that we are getting enough nutrients and enough calories throughout the day. When my body realized that it will get at least 2 adequate meals per day, it stopped hoarding and panic eating. Just the self-reassurance that I will eat again soon, that I will not make myself go hungry, was such a helpful thought to stopping a binge. Some people, I know they do just fine with fasting, but someone with a history of binge eating like myself will find fasting to be a huge trigger. And a binge eater will consume large amounts of calories and feel so ashamed that then they'll promise themselves, I will not eat again for 24 hours. So then they'll fast in order to fix this mistake. But the fasting is part of our addicted brain's way of ensuring that we're going to binge again. Dr. Glenn Livingston, he describes the addicted brain as our lower self. He calls it the pig brain. And he says that this is not really us. It's not our true and highest self, but it's the voice of addiction and self-sabotage. He says that this pig brain will squeal for only one reason, and it's to get the slop. In other words, every craving and every lie that the voice of addiction tells us is simply to get us to give in to that addiction, and that it has nothing to do with our well-being or our truest desires in life. The pig brain is not us, not the real us, and it does not represent what we truly want in life. Dr. Livingston, along with the binge eating expert Katherine Hansen, both say that stopping that cycle before it repeats is imperative. So, no skipping meals or punishing yourself with days of fasting. That might work for a non binge eater, but it does not work for those of us who started these habits due to restricting in the first place. It's all one cycle: the restricting, the binging, the self-blame, restricting again, binging, self-blame. If the pig brain can get you to skip a day of eating, it knows you're just going to binge again. So stop the cycle. Wake up. Have some breakfast if you want breakfast. Have eggs, bacon, steak. Have some butter. Allow your body to feel nourished. Eat mindfully and slowly. Take a moment. Be grateful for the food. Put down your phone. Enjoy the taste. Remind yourself, this is good, and I will be doing it again soon at lunchtime. Say to yourself, there is no need to worry. I will eat again soon. And when the next meal comes, allow yourself to get satisfied again. And this may be hard for you to feel at first, especially if you have restricted calories for a long time. But try to allow your body to get enough and to feel fed. For many of us, that may take 4 burger patties or a pound of steak. I find that when I was eating carbs, I could eat and eat and eat and eat, but with meat, 1 pound of steak or a pound of burger patties usually allows me to feel satiated and ready to do something other than obsess about food. You may need more than that. You may need less than that. And then at dinner, I just do that again. And by giving myself 2 to 3 meals every day and mindfully eating them with a spirit of gratitude and a constant knowledge that I will eat again soon, the urges to binge have become less frequent and have even faded away. And remember that hunger and restriction are the primary drivers of this disorder, so giving yourself enough meat every day is really important. Another thing that people find helpful is learning how to calm their brain. So, craving for sugar or a desire to binge eat can feel like your brain is on fire or like it's lit up like a Christmas tree. So, spending a few times throughout the day in slow breathing, visualization, meditation, prayer, it can help us learn to settle down a fiery brain in difficult moments. But please don't wait until the fire is blazing. Be proactive about it. So some things that I've found helpful is throughout the day. So maybe even while you're peeing or while you're making the bed or some other thing that you already do throughout the day, breathe in slowly, hold the breath, exhale slowly, hold the breath. So breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4 again. This is called box breathing, and you can find times throughout the day to deeply breathe and count. And it may seem lame, but this will actually regulate blood pressure. It can slow down your heart rate. It can slow down the release of cortisol, stimulate your lymphatic system, which is great for your immune system, and improve digestion. And I've also found that doing this throughout the day means it less likely that I will have leg cramps at night because it improves oxygen flow. And it stimulates your parasympathetic system, which turns off that fight or flight syndrome, the response, and helps our brains to feel calm and in control, even in difficult moments. Another technique, making yourself smile. Even if you are faking it, and I know we all hate faking it, but smile and just make yourself list a few things you're grateful for. It will likely feel very stupid at first, but just try it. Even tiny things like, I am grateful for this pillow. I'm grateful for this hat that is hiding the fact that I haven't washed my hair in a week. I'm grateful for my husband that grills meat. I'm grateful for my kids who like to eat the meat. Just smile and name a few things. And the act of gratitude actually has some very similar health benefits to the box breathing. Bonus points if you're smiling and expressing gratitude while out in the sun, while you're barefoot in the grass, while using a red light if you have one, while listening to calming music or taking a cold shower or eating butter, because all of those things can also help to stop a binge episode in its tracks. Katherine Hansen wrote the book Brain Over Binge, and she also says that this piggy, lizardy voice of addiction and sabotage is truly just neurological junk. Throw it out. In other words, we started binging because our bodies were starving. But now it's a useless tool. We just don't need it anymore. She says that we dismiss neurological junk all day long. So if you wake up and you're on your pillow and you're thinking, I hate my job, I hate my boss, I'm just going to call and quit and go to sleep. Do you do that every time? Probably not. If you see somebody with a cute butt at the store and you want to grab it, do you? I mean, every time? Do you rob a bank? Every time you think, man, I need to go get some money. Do we speed at 100 miles per hour every time our brain tells us, go, 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 we're in a hurry? No, because our brains tell us neurological silliness all day long, and we have enough evidence that we can just ignore it. Those are primal urges that we know are not in our best interest, so we ignore them. And this urge to binge eat is exactly like that. When we feel the urge to binge, we can tell ourselves, I know what's happening. I know where it started. This is neurological junk. It's a primal urge that means nothing, and it will pass. And while that dopamine is flowing, you can actually use it to your advantage. And I talked about that in my last video. It's linked below. So as long as we're eating adequate meals and we're fueling our body properly, there is just no need for this behavior anymore. And when the thought arises that we should eat everything in the whole fridge, we can simply dismiss it as neurological junk that is not helpful. And we don't need to find the childhood trauma behind it or neurological reasons that it's there. Just know it is not a good idea. It's junk. Ignore it. You could also try to find out, okay, what am I actually needing in this moment? Am I seeking comfort? If so, call a friend. Snuggle the dog, pray to your creator, write a journal entry, have some human interaction. If you're happily married, I feel like there is a non-food solution here. If you're just bored, on the other hand, work a Sudoku puzzle, get a paint by number set, take a walk, do a hobby, something other than hurting yourself with food simply because you're bored. So you can dig a little deeper into what your body actually needs, but do it from the standpoint of your highest and best self. Because the voice of addiction will lie all day long and tell you this is what you need, you deserve it. Just one more time, you can start again on Monday. But we all know those are lies. The easiest it will ever be to say no is before the first bite of these addictive foods. And as my friend Audra says, the more you say yes to them, the harder it will ever be to say no. But likewise, the more you practice saying no and making better choices, the easier that becomes too. Okay, let's summarize. Binge eating is a painful behavior that started from caloric restriction or food scarcity. And to break free from it, recognize it was a survival technique that I no longer need. Give yourself true nutrition from non-addictive foods. For me, that is meat and eggs, and I can handle a little dairy. Eat regularly scheduled meals of meat. Remind yourself, I never have to go hungry again. So I never have to binge again. Hear that voice of addiction for the liar that it is. Base your decisions on actual evidence. Has binging ever felt like a good idea the next day? Did you ever feel better binging in the long run? No, of course not. So get what you really need. Look ahead and see, does this align with my truest highest self? And if not, go get a steak and work a puzzle. Let some butter melt on your tongue. Take a walk while you take deep breaths and just feel grateful for the day. Or maybe eat some bacon while you talk to a friend or work on a hobby. And soon, you will start breaking these old habits and you'll start stringing together some binge-free days that are full of meaty goodness and less pain. If you have any other tips that helped you to beat this painful habit of binge eating, please comment below. And if you think others may be suffering in silence, please consider sharing this link. This is a cage that holds millions of people captive in shame and pain. And let's help each other break free. And as always, eat the meat. Save the humans.